Okay, welcome to a crash course on using direct mail to increase your business. Here are the topics I'm going to cover in this video. Getting attention, which is obviously the whole point of this. Lumpy mail, dimensional mail, and grabbers. Envelopes, different types, using return address or not. Teaser copy on the envelope. Paper, different color, types, different sizes, using them as inserts, things like that. Tear sheet mailing. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to show you examples and explain it. Yellow line paper mailing, trash can mailing, J-Squirrel letter, post-it notes, using them to increase response rates, handwritten fonts, dollar bill letter, a wallet mailer, ticket mailer, testimonials, proper way to use them, how many pieces you should mail out, in case you're curious about that, mailing list, I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and the two mailings guaranteed to demand attention. And I can also probably guarantee that you've never heard of them. Probably guarantee. Alright, so let's dive in. Real quick, some topics discussed here are obviously going to cost a couple dollars to mail, so it's wise to only use them if your product or service is at a higher price point, or you at least have a back-end sales system in place and you're going to be using it as a loss leader. So keep those in mind. ROI is the most important number you need to know. You want to know your response rates for testing purposes, but ROI is king. The reason being, just to explain it a little more, you could have a 90% response rate, which I'm sure we can agree is, out of this world, but at the same time, you can still make zero sales. So who cares if you got a 90% response rate if you didn't get a sale? And the reason for that is getting attention is only step one, but that is a whole other topic in and of itself. Basically what to do after you get someone's attention, that's a whole course in and of itself. What we're going to talk about here is the getting attention part, and I'm going to talk more about all this towards the end and how to test so you don't waste any money. Well, waste as little as possible, I should say. Getting attention, the number one goal here, and basically most people, what they say is getting attention, which is the number one goal here. They say mail goes into the A pile, B pile, or the C pile. C pile being the trash can. Without attention, your piece is worthless. Getting attention, which is the number one goal here. They say most mail goes into the A pile, B pile, and the C pile. A pile being demands immediate attention. B pile, and I'll get to it later, which people never do. Or the C pile, which is the trash can. Without attention, your piece is worthless. Most mail all looks the same. You can, prove that to yourself. Just look at all the mail you get. It's all, typical number 10 white envelope. It all blends in. So you need to stand out, or your mail is going to go in a trash can. Some of the stuff is obvious, like you need to stand out, but you know what they say about common sense, the most uncommon thing in the world. So people don't think of this stuff for whatever reason. You keep seeing the same, again, same bland, boring mailings, and nobody's different. So if you think about it from that aspect, and just be aware of the fact that all mail typically looks the same, then that obviously tells you that, alright, so it's time to be different, it's time to stand out. And that's exactly what I'm going to teach you right now. First up is lumpy mail, also dimensional mail and grabbers. It's basically adding little items to your envelope to give it some bulk. And the reason you do this is for curiosity, which is a very, very effective marketing tactic. In my opinion, it's one of the top three. Probably second behind, again, this is my opinion, scarcity. But it's a very effective marketing tactic. If you just ask yourself, if you were to get something in the mail and it has some bulk to it, you're gonna rip that thing open because you just you're dying to see what's inside it. So that's why this is so effective. Keep this in mind. You want to be sure to tie in your lumpy piece with your letter or copy. Dimensional mail here, just larger pieces that wouldn't fit in an envelope. You'll see examples of what I'm talking about a little later, but it's the same concept. Different types of envelopes. There's the regular envelopes, the larger ones, or the catalog type, the priority envelopes, those kind, and the quote-unquote other types of envelopes. So let's dive in deeper a little bit. You have the regular envelopes, the plain white number 10s, the most common, the invitation style, colored envelopes, brown craft, window envelopes, and those little coin type things that you might have seen. So they're kind of the run-of-the-mill things, the more common ones. Um, Moving on here to the large catalog ones, you have the Tyvek, which if you don't know what that is, Tyvek is actually a building material that builders use to wrap houses in to keep the wind out and insulate the home. But it's actually a very, very strong material, and that's why they're used for envelopes. Moving on, you have the first class kind, the catalog kind, which are just big envelopes that you throw a catalog in. The manila with the clasp, those brown ones you see with the metal clasp in the back that holds them shut. The brown craft type envelopes, and the other envelopes. What I mean by that is the barf bags, brown lunch bags, popcorn box, photo envelopes, a wallet mailer, and basically anything. The possibilities are endless. And I will dive into all these a little later, so stay tuned. Okay, here's some quick envelope tips. The first one talking about return addresses. Should you use one or not? I think it depends on the mailing. I personally sometimes don't use return addresses, and the reason you wouldn't use a return address is to pique curiosity. If someone gets something in the mail with no return address, they're going to get curious as to who sent it to them. And of course, the only way to find that out is to open up the envelope. So that's one reason not to use them. But the downside to that is if you don't use a return address, you cannot scrub your list. And what I mean by scrub your list is basically just find out the bad addresses on your list. I'll give you an example to explain a little more clearer and help you understand it. Let's pretend that you're mailing out 1,000 pieces of mail. You have a list of 1,000 names, and just for the sake of example, let's say 50 on there are bad addresses. Well, the only way to find that out is to get return to sender. If the post office will return to sender, you get them back, you go into your file and delete the bad names and addresses. What that does is two things. It's going to save you time in the future because now you have 50 less pieces to print, 50 less envelopes to stamp and address, and it's going to save you money, which will add up over time. Stamps obviously are not cheap and they're always going up. So in this example, well, let's say every 100 stamps is $44. So if you got 1,000 pieces, do the math, that's $440. So stuff starts adding up, especially if you're doing large mailings every month. You're going to save a lot of money just from scrubbing your list. So something to keep in mind. And a little tip to scrub your list, like let's pretend that for the most part you're not going to use return addresses. A good way to scrub your list first is to send out a postcard piece as your first piece, because this way you're going to save money because postcard stamps are cheaper. In this case, currently they're 28 cents compared to 44 cents. They're cheaper to mail out, and it's going to add a touch to your campaign. Touch being as in a time that you send out something to your list. The more touches, the more responses you're going to get. So that's just a quick tip. Use postcards to scrub your list first. It's cheaper, and then after that, your next mailing, you have less names and it's cheaper from then on out. Moving on to lots of copy on the envelope. I personally never use a lot of it. You'll see what I do. I just use 2, 3, 4 words just to pique curiosity, but I've seen it done. Some people might say that you should quote unquote advertise on your envelope. I don't know. I mean, you can. I just don't see it that much. But I'm actually going to show you an example of someone that plastered the front and the back with that. So judge for yourself, and if you want to use it, go for it.